I'm Claire Smith and welcome to my channel. So today's video is going to be my October perfume tray. I'm going to pick 10 new fragrances for October, but I'm also going to be reviewing my September perfume tray. So if you've not seen me before, I'm Claire Smith. I make videos all about perfume, perfume science, perfume history, perfume psychology even, and I also just do some straight perfume reviews and also fun perfume tags. So if that kind of thing interests you and you haven't already done so, then please do consider subscribing, and please also like this video if you do like this kind of content. So September, I don't know how it was for you, but for me it was just basically going to work a lot. It was a very boring month, September, but the weather was also quite varied. We had some really warm weather and we had some really torrential rain as well in September. And it was also quite chilly some mornings as well. So I really feel like my perfume choices from September really held up against those changing weather conditions. Really, from my choices from September, I had a few fragrances that I wore a lot. There were 4 fragrances I wore 4 days each. So those were Sana Jardin, Venus of Urbina, also Metal Wave by All Saints, also Kenzo World, and finally Guerlain La Petite Robe Noire Plissé. There was also one fragrance that I only wore one time, and I guess that fragrance, I know really why I didn't wear it very often, and it's actually one of my favourites. So it's Orchid Soleil by Tom Ford. So just because I was so busy in September, I ended up not wearing Orchid Soleil apart from once on a weekend, because Orchid Soleil is a fragrance that has bright red juice. It stains your skin, it stains your clothes if you get it on you, so I have to spray it on me before I get dressed. So that's why I only wore that one once, because I just didn't think about it early enough. But I still do love that fragrance, and I did thoroughly enjoy the one time that I did wear it. So September, I made some real changes as well to my fragrance tray. I basically was less strict with myself. I was allowing myself to reach for other fragrances off my tray on weekends. And I think I'd like to continue that. I think I would actually like to loosen it up a little bit more, because I feel like I'm restricting myself to only 10 per month. And in a way, I feel like I'm wearing less of my collection than I actually was in the first place. So that's what I'm going to do going forward. I'm still kind of adjusting to how this fragrance tray could work for me and whether I want to do it in future. So I'm going to change it again this month just to loosen it up even more, to see how I feel about it next month. So I don't know how all of you are going with your fragrance trays. If you did start this in August when I started mine, I'd be really interested to hear what your views are on fragrance trays and whether you get on with them or whether you don't. They just aren't for some people, and I'm not sure whether a fragrance tray is for me in the long term, but I'm going to keep it going for now. So also, before we get on with selecting my 10 fragrances for October, I just wanted to say that I finally met somebody that I've known on YouTube for nearly 4 years, and I just wanted to mention it. So I finally met Gabi, the fragrantician from here on YouTube, and we had such a nice evening out. We went for a nice meal, and I met her cat, Claude, who is just as vocal in real life as he's in videos. And Claude is just so beautiful. He has beautiful blue eyes, and it's just such a gentle cat, so well behaved. So we had a nice meal, we had a lovely chat. Gabi is just amazing to talk to, so interesting. And if you haven't checked out Gabi's channel, I'm going to leave the link down below. I'm going to leave it linked in the cards. And I would just say, you know, if you are interested in particular fragrance houses like Papillon Artisan Perfumery, or if you really like classic designer fragrances, or if you like vintage fragrances, Gabi is well worth checking out. So let's get on with the selections. So which types of fragrances are my feeling for October? Well, October is Halloween, so I can't resist a theme around Halloween. So I'm going to go for things that are darker, things that are sweeter, perhaps things that are slightly gothic feeling, things that really make me think of fairy tales. That's the kind of vibe I'm going for October, and also something that's more autumnal or even slightly wintry now. So my first choice for October is going to be a fragrance from Milano Fragranzi, and this fragrance is called Basilica. I just have this little decant of Basilica, but I just have been really enjoying this fragrance and I really want to put it on my tray for October. So this one is a milky, incensey, cool, metallic, herbal fragrance. It always makes me think of witches, this one, and that's because of the herbs in this coming off to me as sage, but I think they're listed as thyme and rosemary. This fragrance also makes me think of churches. I think it's meant to give off a cool marble effect with that kind of milkiness and the metallicness and the coolness. I just think it's a very striking fragrance, and it's really interesting and really stands out in my collection as something very different. And I just think it's got that Halloween vibe about it. So I think this is something that I can comfortably wear to work, but I can just feel a little bit gothic just all to myself. So that's Basilica by Milano Fragranzi. So my next choice I'm choosing purely because it makes me think of darkness. This definitely has a bit of a gothic vibe to it, and it's something that I just like to reach for when it's getting a little bit cooler. Autumn, winter is the perfect time of year for this one. I think it works really well in the winter as well as autumn, but autumn is fine. So this one's Floral Street Ylang Ylang Espresso. And this fragrance stands out in my collection because it's one of the few fragrances that I own that has a booziness to it. And I absolutely love boozing fragrances. I want more of these fragrances in my collection. So this one has a booze that I can appreciate. It's kind of whiskey, maybe even rum. It's slightly spiced rum, maybe. It's quite dark rum. I think this fragrance also has a bit of a syrupy liqueur feel, also from the rose. The rose is very rich and really contributes to that booziness. I think there's tiramisu listed as a note, and I wouldn't say for me it's tiramisu. It's more of an espresso coffee laced with some booze. But also there's some cocoa, and I think the cocoa along with the patchouli gives it a little bit of a dryness. It sort of smells almost a bit cigarette-y at points. It's a very dark, broody kind of fragrance, but also syrupy and rich and enveloping as well. This one does have some ylang ylang, but it's definitely in the back seat. It's more about the espresso, the boozy espresso with the rose and the syrupiness, as well as the dryness with the patchouli. I think if you don't like patchouli, this won't be for you, especially if you don't like an earthy patchouli in fragrances. But if you do, it's well worth trying. So that's a Ylang Ylang Espresso by Floral Street. My next choice is one from Tom Ford, and I think whilst Black Orchid is perhaps more seasonal, I find this fragrance infinitely more wearable, especially at work. I would be happy to wear this fragrance to work. In fact, I have worn this fragrance to work. So this fragrance is Tom Ford's Noir Perfume. So the Noir line is kind of famous for having a kulfi note to it. This is no exception. This doesn't have the leatheriness that a lot of the other flankers have in this line. This one is definitely on the softer side. It's something that's quite vanillic. It has that sort of classic, almost like the top of a custard tart almost, you know, the spiced vanilla. But also it feels like you're eating kulfi with this custard vanilla tart. It's just such an indulgent feeling fragrance. But it also feels quite grown up because there's resins here, and that stops it from becoming too gourmand or too sickly. I really like this fragrance. I love wearing this fragrance when I've got a really nice fluffy jumper on. It feels very enveloping and huggy. And I just know I'll be wanting to reach this one as it gets colder towards the end of the month. So that's Noir Parfum. So my next choice is one from Galan, and I feel like this fragrance is one of my favourites in my collection, full stop. But this one just suits this time of year for me. I think because of the leather. So this is Black Perfecto by La Petite Robe Noire from Galan. I think it's a lot of people's favourites from this line, and it really stands out because of that leather note, and also just because of the gorgeous licorice, the powdery rose, the tea, the whole DNA of the La Petite Robe Noire line is here. But also it has that gorgeous muskiness in the dry down that is just super addictive and just keeps you wanting more. It's one of those dry downs that I just find just so seductive, and the leather is beautiful in this fragrance. It's something that is just so soft but still so present, and it's just truly one of my favourite fragrances. I'm going to love wearing this one during October, and that's why I'm putting it on my tray, because I want to reach for it at this time of year. This is a time to be enjoying this kind of fragrance. So that's Black Perfecto by La Petite Robe Noire by Galan. So the next fragrance that I'm going to choose is one from Amouage, and this is Opus 3. This fragrance, I never ever expected to love it, but there's something about this I just find makes me crave it. I think the dry down is what I truly love about this fragrance. So if you haven't tried this one, it really makes me think of dusty books, dusty leather-bound books, but in a library that's straight out of a Gothic novel, and that's why I'm choosing this one this month, because it just has a slightly autumnal feel to it with that kind of dryness, but also it's got some warm spices, it's got some resins. Of course, it's Amouage, it's got some resins, but it just has this very gentle, relaxing study vibe almost. And I just really want to reach for this one during October, and I think it suits that kind of slightly gothic vibe too. So that's Opus 3 by Amouage. So my next choice is one from Gucci, and this is Gucci Guilty Absolute Parfum. This is a beautiful blackberry, rose and pepper fragrance. The pepper is really something that's quite effervescent almost, or fizzy even, very, very slightly anyway. And also it has a greenness and woodiness along with patchouli. It really makes me think of someone gathering berries in a forest, perhaps a Scandinavian forest, somewhere quite dry but also quite cool. And it just makes me think of Little Red Riding Hood, really. It makes me think of fairy tales, this fragrance. And that's why it fits with October. That's why I want to wear this one this month. I just really love the berries in this. I think blackberry is severely underused in fragrances and I would love to see more of it. But yeah, this fragrance is just really beautifully done. It doesn't last quite the whole day. This is one I'd have to take with me because it doesn't get through to the end of the day. But I don't mind that because I absolutely love the beginning of the fragrance. I love the opening. I love the blackberry. So respraying is not too much of a problem. So that's Gucci Guilty Absolute Parfum. So my next choice is going to be one from Kayali, and I'm choosing Invite Only because I feel like Invite Only Amber really ticks the box of trick or treat. It's something that is sweet still, but it definitely has darker elements to it. So Invite Only Amber is obviously an amber, but it's a cola-like, slightly spiced amber. And it also has added interest from the cherry in this. In fact, I really like layering this one with Lovefest Burning Cherry. I think the tobacco in this fragrance adds a lot of interest, but I also really like the honey. The honey is very much along the richer side of honey, but not really reaching the beeswax side of honey. But it's definitely also got some patchouli, and the patchouli is very distinctive. I think this fragrance is just not everyone's cup of tea. This is just a really distinctive fragrance and I just need to learn more about it again. I haven't worn it in a while and I just want to reacquaint myself with it. So that's Invite Only Amber by Kayali. My next choice is another sweeter fragrance, and it definitely does have a trick-or-treat Halloween party almost feel to it. I think this would be great actually if you were going out on Halloween and you wanted something fun to wear. This just feels like a Halloween costume to me. So this one's Agent Provocateur Fatal Intense. So I think the thing that makes it feel like a Halloween costume is not only that it has sort of notes that suggest Halloween sweets, it has licorice, and it also somehow makes me think of strawberry laces or even red licorice laces. It definitely has a sweetness to it. But it also has a bit of a plasticiness almost to it. And plasticiness is not something I generally like in fragrances, but here it comes off almost like PVC almost. It makes me just think of costumes that people wear to go out on Halloween. And I think that's why I find this fragrance so fun. I just think it's very distinctive, it's very different. It was at a great price point when I bought this. And I think it's a great fragrance for not a lot of money. So that's Agent Provocateur Fatal Intense. My next choice is the fragrance that I wore when I went to meet Gabi. And it was just the fragrance that I just really wanted to wear that day. I was in that kind of mood and I felt like Gabi would appreciate it. So I think I want to put it on my tray and wear it and enjoy it more. So this is Lolita Lempicka Eau de Parfum. This is the original formulation. It's a vintage bottle. And I just really love this one. It just has this mystical, mythical vibe about it that's perfect for this time of year. It's the bad fairy fragrance, isn't it? It just has this lovely powderiness along with the violet. But the violet is not sweet and happy and bright like it is in Insolence. It's got some depth to it. It's got some kind of other notes that really just shroud it. So there's also some cherry that brightens it up a little bit, but then also some anise. And the anise and also a black musk kind of surround that violet and just keep it under wraps. It just feels a little bit more melancholic, perhaps, than Insolence does, which is just super bright, super happy. I think this fragrance just has something about it. I think it's the muskiness in the dry down. It's got that addictive quality that I absolutely love in fragrances. I think the addictive thing about this fragrance for me is the dry down with that black feeling inky musk. And I love this one so much that I've now bought the eau de toilette of this fragrance, but I'm going to save that one for the spring because I feel like it's a little bit fresher. So that's Lolita Lempicka Eau de Parfum. So my final fragrance is going to be more along the lines of a gourmand, and I'm choosing this one really because I like wearing it to bed, and I sometimes feel like wearing fragrances to bed it's sort of doing it a disservice sometimes, isn't it? You should perhaps enjoy them during the day as well. So that's why I'm putting this one on my fragrance tray. So this is Loverdose Tattoo by Diesel. It's a very old fragrance, this one now, and I absolutely love it when I have this one with me in my handbag and I pull it out and people see the bottle and they're like, what is that? You know, it's such a cool looking bottle, isn't it? And this fragrance doesn't suit the bottle at all. This fragrance is a super friendly, custardy, vanilla rice pudding fragrance in the dry down. It's so not what the bottle looks like. It's a really super friendly fragrance, not some scary gothic fragrance like it looks. So yeah, Loverdose Tattoo is my final fragrance for October. So please let me know if you do choose fragrances for a tray for a particular month. How is it going for you? How did it go for you in September? What's going to be on your fragrance tray for October? Also, do you theme your trays around things like Halloween, or do you not celebrate Halloween? I'd love to know your thoughts on that as well. And thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, then please press the like button and please also consider subscribing if you haven't done already. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.